looking at our e64 650i with its convertible top faulting on me when I'm going down the road. So what happens is you drive along and it starts blinking convertible top not locked, convertible top not locked. So versus taking it down there and seeing if the dealership can fix it on that recall thing, I decided I'm going to have me a look at it and just see. So I've kind of looked at it before, but I can tell you right now there's one sensor here up for the arms, and that's a little Hall effect sensor, this right here. And then there's another one in the bottom, and that's for the whole mechanism, and that little sensor right here. So these guys pick up segments as the top is moving, and I'll show you that, as well as what I found up on the gear top up here. I'll flip the top on back so you can kind of see what's going on with the mechanism. I took the cover off just to kind of see, because I was getting a motor fault every once in a while, and then also there's some sensors on the top that may be causing problems. And the other thing I had going on is sometime in the past, this wire loom, and one just note of caution, when you stop the top like this, after about 10 minutes or so, it actually will fall. And so if you're working around in there and you got your fingers between the mechanism, you might lose a finger. So let me go ahead and just initiate. All you do is just cycle the key and you'll see the top fall into position. Let's get the key cycle. So you kind of heard it. I didn't have it on the video, but you heard the top fall. So now you can see that the top fell down a little bit. The little wings are still up, but the whole back door fell. So that's one thing really important to do, is make sure you don't have your fingers in there until you reactivate the car. Just basically press the start button. I'll show it on the screen because it is really important. So you just press the start button to turn the car off, and then press it again, and the top will drop. So just do that once or twice just to be safe until you get that top to drop. But anyway, back to where we were with this wire. There's this wire loom right here. What I found is somewhere in the past, this wire loom had gotten caught in the mechanism and pinched it and actually faulted the latching motor, because it couldn't get closed enough to try to latch. So you hold on just a second and we'll cycle the top, and then you can see what I'm talking about. So let me go ahead and close the top. You can see it's opening its wings back up. And I want to stop it right there. Now here again, anytime you move this convertible top, it stops and then it's going to wait. So for this case, with the top inside, we got to get a board in there or something to make sure this thing isn't going to fall, because it will get you. Alright, so we got our board hooked up. Now we're pretty safe. So here's what I wanted to show you on the motor. So here's the little drive motor. Like I say, the cover just comes off with these screws. It's got a bunch of screws you have to take out. This piece flips up and then you can unsnap the cover. It actually has just pop clips in the back of it. The only thing to note is that on the corners there's two little tiny torques that are hiding up underneath this right here, and so you have to get those little torques out right there, and then you can take it off. So here's our little mechanism. So what I found is when it jammed in the past, there's these little cables that run from the motor and they run to the latching mechanism, and they pop off real easy. And so if you hear that tick 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 sound, that little cable is jumping on the gear right there. So one of the problems I had is, if you can see, it's kind of hard to tell, but if you get in there and playing with yours, you'll see right here is a Hall effect sensor, and right here is a Hall effect sensor. These detect when this mechanism has gotten to home position. And so this is the mechanism that when you turn it, it makes the latch go down. and it also closes these little cylinders on the side to make it pop into place. So what happened on mine was it must have jumped teeth, because it needs to sit somewhere close to the end with that gap right there. Let me hook this back up. So it needs to sit somewhere around there, but then also on the other side it needs to match. Mine had jumped teeth a few times. This one, you can see over here, this one's spacing was different. So you can see here, you need to measure this distance right here and set both of them the same. This one works the same way. You just pull the little guy loose and you can screw it back and forth. But this one doesn't have any sensors, so it's only driven by the knowledge of the other one. So if they get out of time, eventually it'll get to the point that that one on the passenger side for US models, probably driver's side for European, the one over there doesn't have the sensor, so it ran aground. So mine was actually hitting right here before this one could get safely into the Hall effect sensor. So I think that may be part of the problem why I was getting the top not locked periodically, is because it wasn't able to get home. So I'm going to set these right about the same, one side to the other. That way, just to assure that it doesn't hit right here, because if it ever hits here, then it goes tick, 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 and it probably will break the gears out. As you've seen, you can buy replacement gears for this. So that's one thing I found. The other is with these Hall effect sensors. Now they're down closed inside, so I'll have to open the top back up. But what I'll do, I'll run the top and then let you watch the monitor, because I'll show you the segments as it's running on INPA. Alright, so we're back in the seat. We got the ignition on. Let's see if I can get the screen. So I got my INP loaded up. And let me just go through the screens. Not too many people show the screen from the front, so just for my memory as well, I'm going to document this. So we're picking up a e64, so that's F4. And then we're going to go to the body module, and then we're going to select convertible top. It's going to tell us that there's a mismatch on our English to German. And then what we want to do is go in here under status leasing, which is F5. Okay, so F1 tells us our Hall sensors, and you can see we got quite a few Hall effect. So this is not locked yet. We're in unlock because I let the top fall earlier. So let me go ahead and lock it down, and you'll see the sensors come in. Okay, so now we're locked. Everything's good. And you can see the different sensors. You can Google them like I did, but the one at the bottom left, that's the back window down sensor. So nothing will happen if that sensor's not making. And then several of the other ones, they're all of the little Hall effect switches and sensors that run on it. Okay, so now let me switch over to this blocks. Okay, so that's F2, so that's the WEG. So these are the blocks. So over on the left side, you can see the segments that you've Googled about and people have said. So these are the segments of the Hall effect sensors. So these segments have to be in line, and certain ones have to be made certain segments at certain times, or else this whole top's going to stop, because it doesn't know what position is what, and it's not going to do anything for fear of damaging it. So if you watch these segments, I'll raise the top up and you can see what happens. So right now the top is open, and we're going to close the top. So watch these segment bars, you'll see as the top opens and closes. Okay, so we're all set up. Hopefully we can see how this works. But you can see on the screen, we're at segment 7 and 7. Everything's down, fully engaged. So we're gonna raise the top up, and then you'll watch these segment bars move as it gets to the different positions. this is good to know because it's working right now. I'm not getting the fault, but it'll help me as well. Okay, so here we go. So you can see on the screen as the segments went up and down, now they're both at 1. So that means the top's fully engaged, everything's down, the wings are all down, and everything's good. So right now I'm not having an issue because I've cycled it about 4,000 times playing with this thing. You can see it went really slow because my battery's getting kind of tired. But theoretically they're saying with the Hall effect sensors, if they move and bumping on the panel, like they say, to hit it right here to try to get that one sensor to register, or hitting it back on the wing if it's not hitting the pocket, then that'll help those sensors get steady. The adjustment would be to adjust the Hall effect switches. So we're going to open the top back up and then see what we can do when we move the switches. Okay, so here's a little video of how this whole little mechanism up here works. So I think we got a motor and it drives the 2 latches. The latch over here on the passenger side and then the latch over on the driver's side. So I'm going to hit the convertible top go down switch and you'll see this mechanism in action. So basically the motor just drives the little cable drive, and it drives the screw which does the latching and also does the tensioner right here. So you see the tensioner moving everything. If I can get it in the shot. Alright, so we stopped the top in mid position. So the car's running right now, so I don't think it'll let the top fall. I think it'll hold it in position, but just to be safe we're going to put the board on the back. So we're going to hook up the computer again and we're going to see what the sensor positions look like. Alright, well I wish I could get my computer back here, it'd be a lot easier. The cable's not long enough, but we have it up on the sensor position screen. So the one at the bottom, that is the sensor for the wings. And the one at the top is the sensor down in the bottom. So what I'm going to do is actually move this wing sensor right here. This is the sensor for it. If I just pop it off, you can see as I move it up and down, it's back in position. What they're saying is if you're having an issue with the down position in the lock, then normally it's position 7 on the screen, so it would be in the upward position. So position 7 is up here. Right now we're at position, top partially up like this, we're at position 6. So we want to be at position 7. So position 7 is about right there. So what they're saying is you need to adjust this location of this and twist the sensor that way. It's basically the same as pushing this up. So right now it's sitting on 7 because it's up above it. Just sitting right on the bar. I'll move it halfway over the pin, so it's not into the groove yet, it's just sitting on top. we're still at position 7. If I move it almost to lock into the pin, now we move to position 6. And if I pop it onto the pin, we're still at position 6. If it's in 6 and it's supposed to be in 7, it may be the thing that's telling it that the top is not locked. But it could also be one of these Hall effect sensors up here that we were talking about earlier. So we're going to get an Allen wrench and do an adjustment. The adjustment, it looks like, to set the bottom location is actually this Allen screw. You can see the factory marks on it. So this Allen screw, if we want it to go down further, we need to back that screw up a little bit, and it's going to let these wings come down a little farther and not hit the stop position. So I'm going to do that little adjustment. I'm just going to turn it out 180 degrees and just see if that helps in the future. I won't know because it's not really faulting right now, because I've cycled it up and down so many times I can't get it to fault anymore. But I'm going to adjust that out, and then as we drive in the next little while, we'll see if that makes a change to it. The other option is to take these screws and open up the holes a little bit, and then move this sensor so that it thinks that it's down in the bottom position. So we're going to get an Allen wrench and we're going to adjust that out. That screw out right there just a little bit. Once you find our Allen wrench, like losing a 10mm socket, you never know where it is. There's an Allen wrench. So we found our Allen wrench. All we're going to do is take this screw and we're going to turn it out 180. And what that's going to do is allow that not to hit when it closes, and it may close a little bit further. The passenger side doesn't have one of these sensors, so we don't have to worry about adjusting over there unless we see that the wings or something are not hitting quite right. So that's what we're going to try. The other thing we're going to have to do is, because we have the issues with the harness getting pinched, it actually chewed through some wires, and I'll get that harness out and show you that it's actually damaged it. So I'm going to have to find a better place to put this harness. It doesn't make a lot of sense that it's right up in here inside where it can get caught in all this mechanism. So I'm thinking I'm going to try to stitch it up into the top a little bit and get it away from all the links, because it's obvious that that is faulted in the car and it prevented the top from locking all the way down and actually made it stick. Alright, so here's the wiring harness pulled out. As you can see, I had to do some temporary taping until I can get me a new harness. But this is one of the power wires. The two larger wires are the power wires to the little motor up here that runs the latches. And then the other wires go to the Hall effect sensors to tell it when the latches are open and closed. But if I pulled the tape off, you could see that it's actually gotten pinched inside of the mechanism. And a couple of the wires, you can see some marks on them where it actually bit into the wire pretty good. And these were actually exposed. The wire was exposed through the insulation. So I'm pretty sure it got caught, and that was one of those times when it actually hung and wouldn't go anywhere. I had to reverse it, and then when I closed it back up, it closed, but it had faulted on my error codes, giving the motor fault. So if it locked on this like it did, and I heard some popping up there, then I bet you it jumps on the gear, and then the Hall effect sensor couldn't close all the way up here, and that might be contributing to it as well. So two things that I can see that would be causing this crazy fault is if the top hangs like it gets caught on the wire, then it's going to make this cable jump, and if it jumps, then it's going to get it out of sequence to the other one because it doesn't have sensors on the passenger side. If that one hits home when this one's hitting the Hall effect, then it's not going to stay on the Hall effect sensor very long. So that could be the problem, or it could be the problem with these Hall effect sensors in the bottom, either this one or this one. One thing I did want to show is the Hall effect sensors with the top locked. You can see this is the status of the sensors, and so you can read up on which ones are which, but you can watch it one eye because the top is fully closed, so you can watch these sensors. So this is the sensors you ought to have with the top fully closed. If I move the little window down, you'll see this bottom sensor. So that bottom one gets enabled, so that says that it's able to move the soft top. If you leave it up, it'll do it automatically. So I can put it up so it's closed basically. So when I hit the button, it's gonna cycle that little window down to get it out of the way, and then start moving the whole mechanism, which will start moving all these sensors. Bling. So it finalized and the window's closed. Alright, we're going to put our cover on, but just in case you're wondering what that little lock unlock thing does in the ceiling, I'll show you where it lines up and what it does. So this actually sits upside down to that. Sits around this way and covers up this whole mechanism. What you can see right here is the little hole, and right below that little hole is that little drive. So if you're wondering what that lock unlock is, it actually drives the little motor. So as you turn it, you can see it slowly turns the gear. So this is how you would lock and unlock manually, as you keep cranking, so you can see why they say crank many times. It takes a lot of cranks to get that lock mechanism to come in. So if you ever had to manually do it, be prepared to crank for quite a bit. If you crank the wrong way and you feel some resistance, stop, because you're going the wrong way. So follow the little rules for where it says lock, and then my unlock is missing, but make sure you're following those rules, because you can break the little gears inside of the motor. But this goes on real simple. Can't put it on one-handed, but it just sits down, and then this whole piece has the screws in it, so it comes up and it sits below it. And then these go underneath the trim, and you can see where the screw hole is. It goes underneath the trim piece, which you can't really do one-handed. But it goes underneath the fuzzy, and then there's two snaps that snap in. So once you get these underneath, you can push down and snap them back in place. But if you've already taken it off, you probably know this by now. Okay, so for the last steps on our convertible top fix, because it had eaten the wires in the mechanism, as you can see, there's the wires. See if I can get them in there. See that wire running along? It was all wrapped up in the mechanism. And so what I did, you can see right here, if we look without the light, we can probably see, but there's a little fold on the soft top where it joins together and makes a seam. So I just took zip ties and went down through there and zip tied that wire to the fold on the inner liner. Let me pull it back, maybe you can see. There you go. So it's hooked up to that fold right there. And what that's doing is going to keep it out of the mechanism, because it was all wrapped up inside of here over time, and it was getting pinched. So I just moved it over. So that's going to be something that should prevent that wire from getting trapped in there and then tearing it up further later on in life. Well, I think that's it. Hopefully that fixed our convertible top problems, and we won't have any more issues out of this little fella.